Thank you very much indeed. And just a reminder of our breaking news here, we're getting reports coming in from the Libyan capital, Tripoli, of heavy anti-aircraft gunfire being heard there on Sunday night. These are some of the pictures coming in. Let's have a listen to that. Well, we don't seem to have the sound there coming on those pictures that are coming into us from the Reuters news agency. But Anita McNaught, our correspondent, is live for us on the line. So, Anita, we had heard earlier that there was every suggestion that there might be a second night of Allied airstrikes. Do you think that's what we're witnessing?
Well, certainly the anticipation of a second night of Allied airstrikes is very much the reality in Tripoli. The anti-aircraft fire that you referred to is still going on. It started at about 1/4 past the hour. Not quite the frenzy of anti-aircraft fire we saw last night when the directions were crisscrossing overhead of us. It's now all concentrated in one direction, but doesn't seem to have connected with anything, and I have to say we're not hearing anything in the skies or seeing anything that might indicate there has actually been a strike. But the mood in Tripoli today has been extremely tense. For obvious reasons, everyone is going to be on high alert, especially the military here. It may have been a preemptive effort to ward off something they think might be coming, or indeed something has happened, but it's happened too far away from us for us to be able to tell in our location. Okay. But yes.
Yeah. So, Anita, I mean, we heard from the Pentagon today that some of the initial strikes had been designed to knock out Libya's air defence systems. They were using the Tomahawk missiles from nearby. I mean, presumably there's things like radar and communication centres that they want to deal with as well. What sort of targets might they be looking at on the second night of strikes, if indeed this is what we're seeing?
Well, that I think is anyone's guess. I mean, routinely, every time you ask a military expert where you think they might be inclined to hit, they'll tell you that's the last thing they're going to tell you. What I can tell you is these are low-level anti-aircraft fire. They could come from, in terms of stations to be targeted, these sorts of things can be launched from very mobile locations. So it's not like there exists in Tripoli still something major that they haven't taken out. I think in taking out the targeting systems, they've really crippled the ability to hit back in a major way. But this is the kind of blanket opportunistic anti-aircraft fire that tonight, certainly so far, seems to have been quite optimistically fired into the air.
OK, Anita, thank you very much indeed. And obviously we'll come back to you if there are more developments there in Tripoli. Anita McNaught reporting there. Let's go now to Tony Bertley, who's live in the eastern city of Benghazi. So, Tony, we've seen activity at some of the air bases that our correspondent Andrew Simmons was talking about, more planes turning up, more nations getting involved. And now the suggestion that with the anti-aircraft fire that we've been reporting in the last few minutes, that there could be a second night of strikes underway. What are people there expecting?
Well, as far as the National Council is, they're expecting more. They want more. They're calling for more strikes against Gaddafi's forces. They say civilian populations throughout the country are under threat, particularly in Misrata. So they say it's very urgent that the Allied forces take a look at what's going on there, and they need to take out Gaddafi's forces to save civilian lives. So they're very strong on this matter. They think it's a good start, but it has to be moved forward, and more attacks have to be made on Gaddafi's positions.
And presumably one thing it helps them with is to an extent, levelling the playing field, that without aerial control, if they enforce the no-fly zone, then it gives the rebel fighters and the opposition fighters a degree of balance, if you like, with the Gaddafi forces.
Well, it's certainly, yes, in terms of the fact they'll be able to use their heavy weapons. They don't have as much as Gaddafi forces, but they do have tanks and they do have artillery and rocket launchers. Now they can move those out into the open and engage Gaddafi forces. Of course, you know, Gaddafi forces are much better armed, they're much better prepared. This is an army in the making, if you like, but they are making it, and slowly, but they will get there. They do understand also that this is something that they have to handle themselves in the end. Having an air exclusion zone is one thing, but fighting on the ground is completely different. But they have, you know, stomach for the fight. They have men who want to fight, and I think they're now starting to develop the channels to get ammunition and money to take that fight forward.
You mentioned taking the fight forward. I mean, is it your impression that at the moment they're in defensive mode and that there's no possibility of an advance from the opposition fighters at this stage?
Well, according to my information, they are advancing. They're pushing back the remnants of the force that attacked Benghazi further and further back. We understand now it's about 100 kilometres from Benghazi towards Ashdabia, that's where a concentration of Gaddafi forces are, and that's where there's been fierce fighting over that town for the best part of a week. So they are pushing forward, but this is a very fluid, situation, a very fluid conflict zone. You don't have drawn battle lines here, so there can be attacks and counterattacks from anywhere. This is desert. It's wide open. It's difficult to maintain any kind of defences in that kind of terrain. So this is very fluid. And that also is why that people here are a little bit apprehensive, that they fear Gaddafi's forces could strike again.
Tony Bertley, thank you very much indeed for bringing us up to date live from Benghazi. Thank you.